Hello everybody, it's me back again with another lore reading for World of Warcraft story. A while back I started reading the documents that a Reddit user compiled of the vanilla in-game lore books, and I was reading them with some footage here from World of Warcraft. And I do get requests to do more narrated stuff on here, so I thought it would be nice to get back into that. I am not the best narrator, so that's why I feel like I haven't done so many. I do make some mistakes, so I will try my best to keep this as mistake-free as possible. And I will be making the background music as usual. As in the other episodes, it has been the same thing. I've been making a little background music, and most likely I will also be playing some rain sounds in the background for everybody to enjoy. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, and today we're going to be continuing on with we're at chapter 3. This one is titled The Doom of Draenor, and this one is called Kil'jaeden and the Shadow Pact. And it says here Duskwoods, Gul'dan, and Strathel, which seems to be the beginning of many of these stories. So I will start reading through these now, and I hope you enjoy this new episode. And yeah, comment below if you enjoy these narrated ones, or if you like my more ambient ones. I will do some more Skyrim ones in the future too. So thank you for hanging around, and have a good and relaxing time. Let's begin. Around the time of Medivh's birth on Azeroth, Kil'jaeden the Deceiver sat and brooded amongst his followers within the Twisting Nether. The cunning demon lord, under orders of his master Sargeras, was plotting the Burning Legion's second invasion of Azeroth. This time, he would not allow any mistakes. Kil'jaeden surmised that he needed a new force to weaken Azeroth's defenses before the Legion even set foot upon the world. If the mortal races, such as the Night Elves and Dragons, were forced to contend with a new threat, they would be too weak to pose any real resistance when the Legion's true invasion arrived. It was at this time that Kil'jaeden discovered the lush world of Draenor floating peacefully within the great dark beyond. Home to the shamanistic, clan-based orcs in the peaceful draenei, Draenor was as idyllic as it was vast. The noble orc clans roamed the open prairies and hunted for sport, while the inquisitive draenei built crude cities within the world's towering cliffs and peaks. Kil'jaeden knew that Draenor's denizens had great potential to serve the Burning Legion if they could be cultivated properly. Of the two races, Kil'jaeden saw that the warrior orcs were more susceptible to the Legion's corruption. He enthralled the elder orc shaman Ner'zhul in much the same way that Sargeras brought Queen Azshara under his control in ages past. Using the cunning shaman as his conduit, the demon spread bloodlust and savagery through the orc clans. Before long, the spiritual race was transformed into a bloodthirsty people. Kil'jaeden then urged Ner'zhul and his people to take the last step, to give themselves over entirely to the pursuit of death and war. Yet the old shaman, sensing that his people would be enslaved to hatred forever, somehow resisted the demon's command. Frustrated by Ner'zhul's resistance, Kil'jaeden searched for another orc who would deliver his people into the Legion's hands. The clever demon lord finally found the willing disciple he sought, Ner'zhul's ambitious apprentice, Gul'dan. Kil'jaeden promised Gul'dan untold power in exchange for his utter obedience. The young orc became an avid student of demonic magic and developed into the most powerful mortal warlock in history. He taught other young orcs the arcane arts and strove to eradicate the orcs' shamanistic traditions. Gul'dan showed a new brand of magic to his brethren, a terrible new power that reeked of doom. Kil'jaeden, seeking to tighten his hold over the orcs, helped Gul'dan found the Shadow Council, a secretive sect that manipulated the clans and spread the use of warlock magics throughout Draenor. As more and more orcs began to wield warlock magics, The gentle fields and streams of Draenor began to blacken and fade. Over time, the vast prairies the orcs had called home for generations withered away, leaving only red, barren soil. The demon energies were slowly killing the world. Rise of the Horde. Swamp of Sorrows, Ironforge, Durotar. The orcs became increasingly aggressive under the secret control of Gul'dan and his Shadow Council. They constructed massive arenas where the orcs honed their warrior skills in trials of combat and death. During this period, a few clan chieftains spoke out against the growing depravity in their race. One such chieftain, Durotar of the Frostwolf clan, warned against the orcs losing themselves to hate and fury. His words fell on deaf ears, however, as stronger chieftains such as Grom Hellscream of the Warsong clan stepped forward to champion the new age of warfare and dominance. Kil'jaeden knew that the orc clans were almost ready, but he needed to be certain of their ultimate loyalty. In secret, he had the Shadow Council summon Manaroth the Destructor, the living vessel of destruction and rage. Gul'dan called the clan chieftains together and convinced them that drinking Manaroth's raging blood would make them utterly invincible. Led by Grom Hellscream, all the clan chiefs except Durotar drank and thereby sealed their fates as slaves to the Burning Legion. Empowered by Manaroth's rage, the chieftains unwillingly extended the subjugation to their unsuspecting brethren. Consumed with the curse of this new bloodlust, the orcs sought to unleash their fury on any who stood before them. Sensing that the time had come, Gul'dan united the warring clans into a single unstoppable horde. However, knowing that the various chieftains like Hellscream and Orgrim Doomhammer would vie for overall supremacy, Gul'dan set up a puppet warchief to rule over this new horde. Blackhand the Destroyer, a particularly depraved and vicious orc warlord, was chosen to be Gul'dan's puppet. Under Blackhand's command, the horde set out to test itself again against the simple draenei. Over the course of a few months, the horde eradicated nearly every living draenei on Draenor. Only a scattered handful of survivors managed to evade the orcs' awesome wrath. Flushed with victory, Gul'dan reveled in the horde's power and might. Still, he knew that without any enemies to fight, the horde would consume itself with endless infighting in its unstoppable appetite for glorious slaughter. Kil'jaeden knew that the horde was finally prepared. The orcs had become the Burning Legion's greatest weapon. The cunning demon shared his knowledge with his waiting master, and Sargeras agreed that the time of his revenge had finally come. Now we are moving on to Chapter 4, titled Alliance and Horde. The Dark Portal and the Fall of Stormwind. Blasted Lands, Swamp of Sorrows, Red Ridge Mountains, Stormwind City, Skullomance. As Kil'jaeden prepared the Horde for its invasion of Azeroth, Medivh continued to fight for his soul against Sargeras. King Lane, the noble monarch of Stormwind, grew wary of the darkness which seemed to taint the spirit of his former friend. King Lane shared his concerns with Anduin Lothar, the last descendant of the Arathi bloodline, whom he named his lieutenant-at-arms. Even so, neither man could have imagined that Medivh's slow descent into madness would bring about the horrors that were to come. As a final incentive, Sargeras promised to bestow great power upon Gul'dan if he agreed to lead the Horde to Azeroth. Through Medivh, Sargeras told the warlock that he could become a living god if he found the undersea tomb where the guardian Aegwynn had placed Sargeras' crippled body nearly 1,000 years before. Gul'dan agreed and decided that once the denizens of Azeroth were beaten, he would find the legendary tomb and claim his reward. Assured that the Horde would serve his purpose, Sargeras ordered the invasion to begin. Through a joint effort, Medivh and the warlocks of the Shadow Council opened the dimensional gateway known as the Dark Portal. This portal bridged the distance between Azeroth and Draenor, and it was large enough that armies might pass through it. Gul'dan dispatched orc scouts through the portal to survey the lands which they would conquer. The returning scouts assured the Shadow Council that the world of Azeroth was ripe for the taking. Still convinced that Gul'dan's corruption would destroy his people, Durotan spoke out against the warlocks once more. The brave warrior claimed that warlocks were destroying the purity of the orcish spirit and that this reckless invasion would be their doom. Gul'dan, unable to risk killing such a popular hero, was forced to exile Durotan and his Frostwolf clan into the far reaches of this new world. After the exiled Frostwolves charged through the portal, only a few orcish clans followed. These orcs quickly set up a base of operations within the Black Morass, a dark and swampy area far to the east of the Kingdom of Stormwind. As the orcs began to branch out and explore these new lands, they came immediately into conflict with the human defenders of Stormwind. Though these skirmishes usually ended quickly, they did much to illustrate the weaknesses and strengths of both rival species. Lane and Lothar were never able to gather accurate data of the orcs' numbers and could only guess at how great a force they would have to contend with. After a few years, the majority of the orcish horde had crossed into Azeroth, and Gul'dan deemed that the time for a primary strike against humanity had come. The horde launched its full might against the unsuspecting Kingdom of Stormwind. As the forces of Azeroth and the horde clashed across the kingdom, internal conflicts began to take their toll on both armies. King Lane, who believed the bestial orcs to be incapable of conquering Azeroth, contemptuously held his position at his capital of Stormwind. However, Sir Lothar became convinced that the battle should be taken directly to the enemy, and he was forced to choose between his convictions and his loyalty to the king. Choosing to follow his instincts, Lothar stormed Medivh's tower fortress of Karazhan with the help of the wizard's young apprentice Khadgar. Khadgar and Lothar succeeded in vanquishing the possessed guardian, whom they confirmed to be the source of the conflict. By killing Medivh's body, Lothar and the young apprentice inadvertently banished the spirit of Sargeras to the abyss. As a consequence, the pure, virtuous spirit of Medivh was also allowed to live on and wander the astral plane for many years to come. Although Medivh had been defeated, the Horde continued to dominate the defenders of Stormwind. As the Horde's victory drew nearer, Orgrim Doomhammer, one of the greatest orc chieftains, began to see the depraved corruption that had spread throughout the clans since their time in Draenor. His old comrade Durotan returned from exile and warned him yet again of Gul'dan's treachery. In speedy retribution, Gul'dan's assassins murdered the Durotan and his family, leaving only his infant son alive. Unknown to Doomhammer was the fact that Durotan's infant son was found by the human officer, Aedilis Blackmore, and taken as a slave. That infant orc would one day rise to become the greatest leader his people would ever know. Incensed by Durotan's death, Orgrim set out to free the Horde from demonic corruption and ultimately assumed the role of war chief of the Horde by killing Gul'dan's corrupt puppet, Blackhand. Under his decisive leadership, the relentless Horde finally laid siege to Stormwind Keep. King Lane had severely underestimated the might of the Horde, and he watched helplessly as his kingdom fell to the green-skinned invaders. Ultimately, King Lane was assassinated by one of the Shadow Council's finest killers, the half-orc Garona. Lothar and his warriors, returning home from Karazhan, hoped to stem the loss of life and save their once glorious homeland. Instead, they returned too late and found their beloved kingdom in smoking ruins. The orcish horde continued to ravage the countryside and claimed the country's surrounding lands for its own. Forced into hiding, Lothar and his companions swore a grim oath to reclaim their homeland at any cost. Lord Lothar rallied the remnants of Azeroth's armies after their defeat at Stormwind Keep, and then launched a massive exodus across the sea to the northern kingdom of Lordaeron. Convinced that the Horde would overcome all of humanity if left unchecked, the leaders of the 7 human nations met and agreed to unite in what would become known as the Alliance of Lordaeron. For the first time in nearly 3,000 years, the disparate nations of Erethdor were once again united under a common banner. Appointed as supreme commander of the Alliance forces, Lord Lothar prepared his armies for the coming of the Horde. Aided by his lieutenants, Uther the Lightbringer, Admiral Dalen Proudmoore, and Turallion, Lothar was able to convince Lordaeron's demi-human races of the impending threat as well. The Alliance succeeded in gaining the support of the Stoic Dwarves of Ironforge and a small number of the High Elves of Quel'Thalas. The elves, led at the time by Anastarian Sunstrider, they were largely uninterested in the coming conflict. However, they were duty-bound to aid Lothar because he was the last descendant of the Arathi bloodline, which had aided elves in ages past. The Horde, now led by Warchief Doomhammer, brought in ogres from its homeworld of Draenor and conscripted the disenfranchised Amani Forest trolls into its fold, setting out on a massive campaign to overrun the dwarf kingdom of Khaz-Modan and the southern reaches of Lordaeron. The Horde effortlessly decimated all opposition. The epic battles of the Second War ranged from large-scale naval skirmishes to massive aerial dogfights. Somehow, the Horde had unearthed a powerful artifact known as the Demon Soul and used it to enslave the ancient dragon queen, Alexstrasza. Threatening to destroy her precious eggs, the Horde forced Alexstrasza to send her grown children to war. The noble red dragons were forced to fight for the Horde, and fight they did. The war raged across the continents of Khaz-Modan, Lordaeron, and Azeroth itself. As part of its northern campaign, the Horde succeeded in burning down the borderlands of Quel'Thalas, thereby ensuring the elves' final commitment to the Alliance's cause. The greater cities and townships of Lordaeron were razed and devastated by the conflict. Despite the absence of reinforcements and overwhelming odds, Lothar and his allies succeeded in holding their enemies at bay. However, during the final days of the Second War, as the Horde's victory over the Alliance seemed almost assured, a terrible feud erupted between the two most powerful orcs on Azeroth. As Doomhammer prepared his final assault against the capital city of Lordaeron, an assault that would have crushed the last remnants of the Alliance, Gul'dan and his followers abandoned their posts and set out to sea. The bewildered Doomhammer, having lost nearly half of his standing forces to Gul'dan's treachery, was forced to pull back and forsake his greatest chance of victory over the Alliance. The power-hungry Gul'dan, obsessed with obtaining godhood itself, set out on a desperate search for the undersea tomb of Sargeras that he believed held the secrets of ultimate power. Having already doomed his fellow orcs to become the slaves of the Burning Legion, Gul'dan thought nothing of a supposed duty to Doomhammer. Backed by the Stormreaver and Twilight Hammer clan, Gul'dan succeeded in raising the tomb of Sargeras from the seafloor. However, when he opened the ancient flooded vault, he only found crazed demons awaiting him. Seeking to punish the wayward orcs for their costly betrayal, Doomhammer sent his forces to kill Gul'dan and bring the renegades back into the fold. For his recklessness, Gul'dan was torn apart by the maddened demons he had set loose. With their leader dead, the renegade clans quickly fell before Doomhammer's enraged legions. Though the rebellion had been quelled, the Horde was unable to recoup the terrible losses it had suffered. Gul'dan's betrayal had afforded the Alliance not only hope but also time to regroup and retaliate. Lord Lothar, seeing that the Horde was fractured from within, gathered the last of his forces and pushed Doomhammer south, back into the shattered heartland of Stormwind. There, the Alliance forces trapped the retreating Horde within the volcanic fortress of Blackrock Spire. Though Lord Lothar fell in battle at the spire's base, his lieutenant Turallion raided the Alliance forces at the 11th hour and drove the Horde back into the abysmal swamp of sorrows. Turallion's forces succeeded in destroying the Dark Portal, the mystical gateway that connected the orcs to their homeworld of Draenor. Cut off from its reinforcements and fractured by infighting, the Horde finally buckled in upon itself and fell before the might of the Alliance. The scattered orc clans were quickly rounded up and placed within the guarded internment camps. Though it seemed that the Horde had been defeated for good, some remained highly skeptical that peace would last. Khadgar, now an archmage of some renown, convinced the Alliance High Command to build the fortress of Nethergard that would watch over the ruins of the Dark Portal and ensure that there would be no further invasions from Draenor. Thank you for listening. Our next story will be Aftermath of the Second War, but that will be in another episode. So I will keep this one here, and we will continue off of that one. There's a couple more books within this chapter, so we will be getting to the Lich King and Ice Crown and stuff, which is very exciting. So for this episode, I'm going to keep it here, but I really hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm going to finish off the rest of this video with just some ambience and some in-game content that you guys can watch along to, or just leave the music playing in the background. I do hope that you enjoy, and thank you again for hanging out, and I'll see you guys when I do another episode of this. Thank you so much. Enjoy.